Thank you so much. Thank you really for being here, everybody. And thank you, Alyssa and Ethan and everybody in the ROI team that I think that you are taking care of us every day of the year, but especially in these days. And it's very, very important. So I'm grateful for that. And I need to share my screen first, right? Let's see, share desktop. And also you would imagine that I will know. You see it now, right? Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Perfect.
we see.
So unfortunately, or maybe I can put you somehow. I have no idea how to do it. Yay. All right. So we really don't have much time, but I would recommend if you can take a piece of paper and a pen and just to have it by your side in a very old-fashioned way, or even open your notes or one of the apps. And I'm really just inviting you to write down your reflections and things that you might have some insights or questions that I hope we'll have as much time as possible in the end, because it's my favorite time. And we're here to talk really about the social power of fashion. And I will show some of my case studies from my world. But I was really thinking about myself listening now to 45 minutes of any kind of session. And I would really want to get something out of that, because we all know that we have Netflix and other channels, as we just saw in the group. So actually the two questions I would love if you would reflect in the next minutes and hours and days, and even let me know and share with me if you want to, are: one, what is your biggest passion in life? Now, all of us here are professionals and hopefully doing and dealing with our biggest passions, but I would like to suggest that maybe your biggest passion right now, it's something that you did for the first time this week. Or maybe you did it last time when you were 15 or even 5 years old. It's not necessarily something that you know that you are good at, but it can be. So I'm suggesting that even if you are, I don't know, a manager or an engineer, you actually really like to paint. And even as a painter that's really good at being at home alone or in the studio, you might be also great with people and with managing. So just I'm inviting you to think of that right now. And the second question is, what keeps you up at night? So what really, really bothers you and really annoys you in such a way that you just would like to change it? And it can be something very big and global. It can also be something very near, like your parents or grandparents or children or the people across the street. And if you find it hard to think about those two questions, I'm offering two small gifts. One is just a bunch of money. So imagine that you have now something like 500 million of dollar, and you don't need to worry about that. And the second thing is, if you want to think about a word that is corona free. So this is just a suggestion. You can also use the corona now as a given, and think of the cultural center for old people online that you always dreamed or in the last week dreamed to establish. Or you can also imagine the word after we passed it. So now is a dark screen that I hope that you may be seeing yourself, and you are also invited to close your eyes and just think for a moment about fashion, because fashion is something that when people say it, it sounds kind of negative. It sounds like we used to think of fashion as like something superficial, and maybe just clueless girls are thinking about it, or something that more related to TikTok. But I really want you to try to remember long time ago, before corona, and the last time you went outside of the house, if it was for work or if it was to meet someone. And I want you to try to remember, what did you wear? And if you can also to think, how long did it take you to decide what are you going to wear back then? So if you're thinking about what you're wearing now at home or when you're going to the supermarket and asking yourself, would it be the same outfit that you will wear, for example, for the ROI summit or the brand date extravaganza or to a date with your partner's parents or an interview? So I don't think that you will wear the same. And even if you will, I believe that it will be some kind of a statement. So what I'm trying to say, that all of us, like any actually humans in the history, are using fashion in any culture to express ourselves and to share our story, to share our identity, and to communicate with others. The others can be people from work or people that you know that are nearby, or people on the street, people on social media that you don't even know, but you are sending some signals and you're spreading some messages by the way that you're getting dressed. So if you think about it, when you decide in the morning if you will wear now a button-up shirt or a tight jeans or something loose or a skirt or a jacket, those decisions are actually affecting the way that you're going to feel and you're going to communicate along the day. And I would like to argue that first of all, we are communicating with ourselves, with whatever it is that we are wearing, because we are in charge of our feelings and how we decide to express ourselves to others around us. So it's nothing new, really, that from the oldest civilization of cavemen, people used to, before they even could speak, they used to hunt, and the strongest person of the tribe used to wear fur. Later on, the royal families also took the fur to show who's the strongest, who's the richest. And later on, this picture from the 19th century, the first pants ever worn by a woman, an activist for in the feminism movement. And later on, of course, the 60s and the miniskirt and the punk movement in the 80s. The Iranian Revolution in 1979, this is a picture from the revolution. This is another picture that can show you the process, but this is actually what happened before in Iran in the 70s. This is how people used to get dressed and take pictures. And here you can really see the process over the years. And here's a picture from today and even Corona times. So what is happening? People are actually using fashion to create messages and to affect others and ourselves. And now let me start from the end. As Elisa mentioned, this fashion show from, oh, you hear me, right? This fashion show that I had in the Forbes 30 Under 30 event in the Tower of David in Jerusalem. I'm sharing the stories that I'm going to share with you about the collections of my story, my personal story, and the collections that are wearing. And those people, as I call all of my models, are my role models. Each person here, each role model, created something significant and amazing to change their life and others' life. Here's Adina, that I think that she's on the call, working with homeless people in New York. And we had there a refugee, we had a model from the autism spectrum, we had the wheelchair user, we had the drag queen. And it was actually a very powerful experience because those people never modeled before. Sorry that I have to close it, sad. But I want you to see. And actually, it was very, very empowering also for them and also for other people that watched the fashion show. So now I'll just show you a quick video. Hi. So I'm back, and as I said, I think it's understood that I'm a fashion designer, and I'm trying to reflect and to spread messages through the fashion and actually to use it as a medium of communication with others. And I was born and raised in Kiryat Tivon, which is in the north of Israel, in the Israeli Valley. After my high school and before my military service, I had a gap year, Shnat Shirut. If you're familiar with the concept, you basically live in Kumuna. I lived with 10 other people who are just my best friends and more than brothers and sisters because we do everything together. We sleep in the same small apartment, we cook, we work, we cook and we eat, we do everything. Unfortunately, all the 10 of them got hurt very badly in a terror attack while we were there during the gap year in Jerusalem. And I was not there. I was 2 minutes away from the terror attack. So I spent the following year really helping them to recover physically and mentally. And then I went to the army, and my job was in the Golani Brigade to take care of soldiers who got hurt or got sick, מש"קית נפגעים. So lots of traumas. And at some point, I just decided, consciously or not, to do something for myself. And that day, I started to study fashion. Later on, I moved to Milan, where I also studied and worked in fashion. And I suffered there a lot as being Jewish and an Israeli. Many people couldn't really understand me and how hard it is actually for me to be there while people in Israel are fighting. My friends are in Gaza, my friends are outside Gaza and during the wars. And how difficult it is actually to grow up in Israel and also to just be a Jewish. But then when I went back to Israel in a summer vacation in 2014, a war started between Gaza and Israel. And what I could do, I could volunteer with the kids from the trauma zone in the north. So they bring the kids, and for the first time, they see the cows and they see the kitchens, and it's beautiful and fun and pastoral. But those kids, as soon as something like will happen, they will run away and hide and cry because they used to have 4 seconds to run to the shelters. So it was a huge dissonance for me to see that, but I also understood that I know those kids because I'm an Israeli kid myself, and I know the TV that they're watching, I know the narrative they grew up to, I know that it's crazy that they are living this situation of 4 seconds to run to the shelters every time that there is an alarm. But I also know that they have an alarm and they have a shelter. And what I really didn't know, and I was just curious about, is what is happening in the other side. I really understood that I don't know anything. So I did the basic thing that every curious person would do, and I Googled. So here I Googled Milchama be'Aza, war in Gaza in Hebrew. And as you can see the screenshot, it's a very heroic pictures of the soldiers and the tank and the sunset, and we are winning the war and the flag. And when I Googled exactly the same in English, war Gaza, I saw suddenly completely different picture of the mothers and the kids and the bombing. And it made me really realize that the only thing that I can do to understand the reality is to ignore kind of the media and to speak with people. So I tried to create direct connection, and I started to just Google things I was interested in, for example, Gaza artist. And I saw this art that comes from both sides of the conflict. And as you can see, very, very gray, very depressing, kind of just, this blurry thing, conflict, Middle East, like, let's go get a drink. And it was just, not very attractive. And I spoke to people from the Palestinian world, and not just Palestinian and not just from Gaza, but every person that I talked to online, of course, through Facebook and stuff like that, they all told me that I'm a murderer, that I'm killing babies, and the worst of things. And I continued and continued. And I think that more than 6 months later, I was already back in Milan. And I found this artist that creates those images from the pictures of bombing of Gaza. And it kind of actually made me feel a lot of hope. And when I contacted him, we became friends in a second. We just started immediately to talk about our families and our passions, our, just music and what we love to eat. It was challenging only in the way that we cannot meet in person because they cannot leave Gaza and I cannot go in. And they have electricity only 4 to 6 hours. Usually it starts at night. So it was already midnight or 1 a.m. in Milan. And we just talked like friends, and we still talk every day since. And we understood that we are kind of a window for each other for the other side of the reality, because I am his window to all the rest of the world that is outside Gaza, and is my only way to understand what is happening there. So we wanted to create something, but it was so difficult to find something that we share in common, because as much as I have the white dove or symbols that I grew up that reflecting peace, this is something that he created. He didn't really have those, didn't really have the symbols of peace or even this value. And a few weeks later, we found this short sentence from the Bible and Quran saying that Isaac passed away and his sons, Isaac and Ismail, buried him together in the cave of Machpelah. So we said, this is what we want to talk about. We don't want again, like in the past 2000 years, to reunite for burying more people that we love. And the thing that really combines us and we share together is death and sadness because of this war. We want to actually reunite for life. We want to reunite for creations, for art, for love, for everything that is happy and everything that is positive for the future of the next generations. And since we cannot meet, as I said, I can't even, unfortunately, share his name because it's too dangerous for him and for his family. We started to create on Pinterest a visual inspiration, kind of a mood board. So you can see the pictures are super naive, colorful, optimistic, and kind of very different from what I showed you before from the Google about the art that speaks about the conflict in the Middle East. And this is what I created when I finally felt that I found a partner. I found someone to share with me, to teach me, and just to help me to go through this thing that was very difficult for me personally, this gap. So we decided to call the collection Bridging, or the creation or the project. We didn't know what's going to be. And later on, also like almost 2 years later, I found out that that's the meaning of my last name, Hidas. So that was another funny thing. And then he, as an architect and a teacher in the university in Gaza, there are actually 10 universities in Gaza, by the way, and he teaches there freehand architectural drawings. So he started creating this series of drawings, and he scans them and sends them to me. And from his drawings, I'm creating prints. And from the prints, I'm creating very wearable and very flattering collection or clothes. Sometimes it's this quality, and as I told you, I don't want to touch it at all. So here, for example, it's just the negative. And you can see how, even though it doesn't have a voice and it cannot speak, but a small piece of him cannot speak out loud, and even share his name, but a small piece of him with his signature is traveling around to Jerusalem, to Milan, to the States, to Asia, and actually everywhere. And this is our message. This is another to show you the process of how I work, from the print to the design and to the final garment. This is a project that I did for the Ethiopian community in Israel. It was also something interesting. And here's a bit more from the process. So I got invited suddenly for shows and exhibitions, and it was in Vogue, Elle, and Harper's Bazaar, and everywhere. And every time we were really fighting and trying to get every document and everything that we can to let him come and share this with me and share the story, and that we will finally meet. This is from exhibition in Italy, and sculptures from Greece from 500 BC. And you can't imagine how much I would love him to be on stage and to share this story and his perspective. But unfortunately, it was always impossible until this one time in Jerusalem Design Week, that we weren't sure if it's going to happen, but it was a small chance that he will get a visa for 12 hours. And it came. In this picture, I blurred both of us because unfortunately I cannot share it right now because it's all recorded and online. But it was very, very emotional day. First of all, for both of us, but also to so many people. Actually, she is Fabiana, the journalist from Vogue Italy, and this is Shelley from New York, and they're also wearing the same cape, and they met there. They all came to meet him, and this picture is completely in the dark, and I'm sharing the story with people. The funny thing is that he thought that only in Gaza there are electricity problems, but also in Jerusalem. So that was funny, and I just want to show how people are interacting with the clothes. People are touching it, they're talking about it, they're asking questions one another, they're taking pictures, and this is the goal for me. This is where we see that we're actually achieving something. Here you can see on the side his drawings. And this is what we want to do. We want people to touch, we want people to feel and to think about this collaboration that we are doing, and not just to be sad and to say, and we can't do anything about it. So at the same time, I'm worried personally, as a second and third generation of refugees and Holocaust survivors, from another situation that is happening. This picture is actually from a village 5 minutes away from one of the best hotels in Israel, in the north of Israel, and it's in Syria. And those pictures I get every day from the bombing there. And really, kids who are already more than 10, they were born to the reality of a very, very sad and bad war. And I'm volunteering also in the hospitals in Israel, that they give medical treatment, especially for kids and women. And this is also a picture from Leros, which is an island between Greece and Turkey. And I'm doing it really because I just can't hold myself from, and I can't just sit at home and saying this is so annoying and sad. You can see those kids and how they play and what they do and what really bothers them. And here we're doing some fashion, so you can see the pregnant woman in the refugee camp, and you can see also the transgender from Syria. You can see how they create and express themselves even with the minimum of resources. So, and here it's me. Of course, or not of course, but I have to be undercover, and I cannot let them know that I'm an Israeli or Jewish, because I just don't want to put them into too much of thinking, and I don't want to put them in risk. So I'm undercover here, and this is a lady from Afghanistan and from Iran and from Syria, and we're all cooking together, enjoying together, and dancing and doing some massage and makeup and yoga outside, because it's the biggest place for everyone. And all of the time, I'm just thinking to myself how inspiring it is that their life is actually like they really lost everything in front of their eyes, and they have no idea what will happen with them and where will they go and when they will go and if they will even go somewhere. But they're still so strong and so hope. They have so much hope. So that inspired me, and I just kept writing to myself on my notes app so many things that they've said. And when I finally got a call unexpectedly from New York Fashion Week asking me to be there in 2 weeks from that call, I immediately talked with my Palestinian creative partners that I still haven't met, except this one time after all of those years. It was 2014 when we first met. And I gave him sentences, for example, like this one: a long silence could have been avoided. You can see a long silence could have been avoided. And I also created collaboration with a calligrapher, Jewish calligrapher from Jerusalem. His name is Max Noyes, and he did his own interpretation. And I combined their both works into prints. And then I created these collections that actually expressed the stories of the refugees, but again, from the positive point of view. And again, from a place of their hopes and their dreams and their narrative and their symbols and how they feel. And in some ways, I gave them voice in the biggest fashion event of the world, in New York Fashion Week, in a way that really attracted people to ask more. They wanted to know more. And of course, they wanted to wear more. And when they're wearing those clothes, they're actually communicating, as I said, with themselves and also with many others. So here, for example, you can see the keys. That is a symbol that they draw often just very intuitively. And you can see the words, the work from the Palestinian artist. And here also the bird in the cage, it's another symbol, and hands reaching out for help. So we had also part of the collection that was all white with just those small symbols reflecting the idealizations that the refugees are making on the time before the war. And yes, that was the, and this one is Roxana. She is an amazing Syrian young woman here in Munich that is wearing and modeling and role modeling the collection. A very exciting thing for me to do and to see. And now a little bit about the future. So the future is adaptive, if you didn't know yet. The future is adaptive, and what I'm doing is I'm working with an amazing group of people that I think that also Vitali is here on the call. And actually, I always designed things that were for everyone, or at least that's what I thought, for any religion and any age, and super petite and super plus size. But the very small thing, like expressing ourselves, like the exercise that we did in the beginning, some people can't do that only because they have physical disabilities. And the way that we get dressed is the same way in the past at least 50,000 years. I'm serious. Can show you a slide and I can talk for hours about the first needle of the world that looks exactly like the same needles that we are using today. So technology has advanced so much and people can live in such a high life quality. And why wouldn't they just get dressed the way they want? That will make it easier for them. But what is them? We want all of us to feel good about ourselves. All of us want to express ourselves and to do it easily and fast and fun. So the collection I'm working on now is collections that is really, I kind of break down the way that we are dressing. For example, like how we put a shirt or pants one leg after the other. And I'm using completely new solutions that we developed with amazing, amazing textile that is all sustainable and actually self-sterilizing. And right now the only solution for Corona, and literally healing. So for me, just a quick 2 cents about sustainability. Sustainability for me is the materials. It's also the content behind the stories, behind the collection, because I don't think that anybody or the world needs me to create another jeans or black dress. So if there is anything that I can do with my skills, I prefer to also share the story, use materials that are supporting the world, and also the way that the clothes are being made. So the people who are working on that and the people who are wearing that. And I think that this is it. So time for questions, right? Trying to see, I opened also the screen on my phone to see most of you, I hope. Wait. Yes, now I'm in a gallery view, Vitali.
Baby, you rock. It was amazing.
Thank you. I'm happy to answer some questions.
I have a question. Hi, Michal.
Talia,
How are you? This was great. Thank you so much.
thank
I
you.
would love to hear a bit more about sort of the second to last slide about the adaptive clothing that you're working on. Maybe like a couple of examples of how to put on pants differently and the kinds of stuff that you're designing now.
All right. So that is actually a super cool project. I'm working on that for at least 2 years. You should know, I guess, because you get my micro grants. um, so as part of being a part of the um, New York Fashion Week Sustainable Fashion Show, I think that it's really essential part to create things that are adaptive and for everyone, and not just for the people with this physical need. Because first of all, I believe that all of us have disabilities. Just some of them we see more and some less, but we all share those disabilities, or different disabilities, not the same. And this is really the goal behind it. So with those role models, because you're asking more technically about what I'm doing, right? So it's such an amazing process, but I'm working with an amazing group of role models. Each one has completely different story and completely different ability and disability. So if someone, for example, is 25 years on a wheelchair and her problem is actually in her legs, even while using the wheelchair for 25 years, she might already hurt herself in the shoulders. Just one example that Vital here probably know maybe what I'm talking about. But so what I'm doing is actually trying to figure out a very specific outfit for a very specific person, believing that if I manage to help her, I will probably manage to help 500 or 5,000 or even more people in that situation. So one of the biggest example, because I started all of that with Ziv Shilon, that might some of you know, is an Israeli hero that lost his two hands in Gaza. And is a crazy person because without his hands, he's still managing to run so many foundations, businesses, and motivation talks, two little kids. He did the Ironman last year, like completely, I don't even know what is this thing. And he loves to get dressed. He really loves it. But the fact is that the simple fact that he cannot do it by himself because he doesn't have hands. And for him, it was very important to have a button-up shirt because he's really lecturing around the world and he cannot go by himself because he cannot do buttons. So that was one challenge. And the challenge was to really have a button-up shirt the way he wanted because he didn't want it to open in any other place because he wanted to be like everyone else, right? And we decided to use magnets. And we made probably at least 1 million, not 1 million, 100 prototypes, because the big challenge was that it will not open up if you will, example, be on stage or do something like this and speak, but also to make it easy for him to take it off while he wants to take it off, basically. So after figuring this issue and we made the shirt for him, we believe that many other people can enjoy this technology and this shirt that is special for him. About pants, for example, what we want to do is that instead that you're really wearing the pants like one leg after the other, you can just put it, anyone can put it on bed, on the chair or whatever, sit on that, and then actually with the special technology that we are developing and we develop, it will close by itself on you and then you will be ready to go. But again, very easily you can take it off. And feel also, the most important thing is that you feel comfortable and that you feel stylish and you don't feel like you're wearing something that is like, I don't know, like, second priority. No, it should be your first priority, no matter your size, your ability, your disability, and where you're going. So that's the main concept behind it. And feel free to ask me more questions because it's super interesting, actually.
Wait, I have a question. Maybe this is a little spoiler, but when we spoke earlier, you mentioned something about materials that, like sterile materials. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yes. So the incredible Jeff Gabay, based in Jerusalem and famous all around the world, is a textile engineer, but much, much more. And he invented a textile that is actually pure silk or cotton. It's all natural. And the process to make it is also, it doesn't require any water almost at all. So it's very good for the earth in general. And this fabric, I mean, he can explain you about it in 7 hours. For me, it's a bit more complicated, but bottom line, it's literally healing. So people that they have protease or they have some kind of problems, you know, that they're missing parts, or they might be maybe before even the operation, and they use this textile, it's literally healing the body. And I can give you a small fashionable examples that Dior bought this fabric to do sheets because it's also anti-wrinkles, and also for jeans like anti-cellulite. But actually Jeff was one of the people that told me, and he's a textile engineer that inventing crazy stuff. And he told me, I always thought that fashion is like this superficial trends, it's changing, nobody cares, whatever, I'm buying my suits, I'm good. And when he saw what I'm doing, and he said, okay, it's the first time that I really understood the power of fashion and what we can do if we use it to change people's perspectives. So now it's like a perfect combination that we come together. And his fabric is also, because it's self-sterilized, you don't need to wash it at all. So also, again, water saving. And also it's very good for people when they're sitting a lot on the wheelchair. They might have like small, you know, problems that they maybe not even feeling, but it's really complicated. So with this textile, actually they don't need to be worried. And of course we are not designing anything with buttons anymore at all, and not zippers and nothing in the back. And why is it connected to Corona? Because there is no virus that can be attached to the textile, and no bacteria. So it's actually the only thing that right now, if you will use, will really help to even people, if they have it, to spread it around and also to get it, that's why it's another crazy time right now to work on this. It's really exciting. And what else did I want to say about it? I mean, I'm sure that there are so many more from Vital message. Is making masks is like making billions of masks right now. To like, it started already 2 months ago that the Hong Kong government asked for, I think, 10 million. And it's all around the world. They're really saving lives, especially for doctors. And you know, and I mean, the all use of those textile. I know what I wanted to say, that it looks amazing and it feels amazing. And before this collection, the only use for this textile was in hospitals. So for example, for curtains in the hospital and pajamas, and for the kids, they produce like small teddy bears with this to really, you know, protect them. And for military. So he was really not into fashion, and I just kind of stalked him and made this collaboration that now feels very, very natural for both of us. I closed myself. Any more questions?
If we have no more questions, do we have any more questions? There's like literally 1 minute to go. You could be the lucky last. But if you're, yeah, I think
Thank you.
giving a round of applause, like while we're all on mute. Thank you so much, Michal. It was incredible to see your work. Really, it's both beautiful and meaningful. And also, my question, where is it on the market? Like, can we actually buy our own? Yes. Okay, great.
ROITV.net.
Can you put your link into the chat?
Word. Yes, you can go to my website and you can also text
www.hidas.net.
Share with me your reflection. It's my favorite part. I was supposed to start today a workshop here in Munich of 1 week with students like from whatever course. So I'm very happy to do that and to share it with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, and everybody, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, ROI team. Thank you again.
Thanks, Michal. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.